no more tears. We need peace,
The brief
no more
video. I'm not going to
tears.
play it all the
We
way
need
through. I'm just going to give you
peace,
a taste.
no more
Okay.
tears. We need peace, no more tears. Yes. Welcome. Welcome to my West African country, Mali. Yes. Welcome to my West African country, Mali. You see, in my West African country, Mali, there is the city of my birth, where there are a lot of people who live there. Near the city of my ancestors is a forest where many animals live. Now, the people of the city and the animals of the forest, they interact a lot, and at times you would think that they were family. Also living in the city of my ancestors are two very important people, known as heaven and earth.
All right. That particular video was made some years ago when there was a relationship developed between the Philadelphia Free Library, Atwater Kent Museum, House of Umoja, and Keepers of the Culture, a storytelling group. And I was one of the storytellers that contributed a story, an audio version and also video version. That will give you somewhat of an idea as to how drums are used with storytelling. In that particular story there, I used the drumming in the beginning and near the end. We're going to step into a living tradition of African storytelling where words, rhythm, and community come together. We will experience how drumming punctuates and enhances stories, blending them and making that connection. And of course, y'all know me, who I am, Ron Carter. This here is indeed a privilege for me. I didn't know how I was going to do this workshop because normally I would do it in person, live with drums and little, very small percussion instruments and some participation. So this here was a challenge for me, and I like challenges. I panicked when I found out that it was going to be on Zoom. I didn't know what I was going to do. But we're going to explain the cultural and the historical significance of African storytelling and its traditions. Understand the roots and the values and the roles of storytelling in African cultures across generations. African techniques that integrate themselves into short narratives, storytelling to enhance the audience participation, explore how rhythm and movement deepens emotional connection and engagement. Learn the fundamental striking techniques and using the drum. Engage the audience through the interactive patterns. That was something that Valerie talked about in her adaptability workshop, and how to know who your audience is and how to approach them, and use rhythm and movement to express the feelings and create atmosphere that will leave a lasting impact. African storytelling, where words, rhythms, and community come together. Words, as far as the words are concerned, they're stories that that carry wisdom and history and life lessons that are passed on um, from generation to generation. The rhythms involve themselves with the drumming that punctuates the story. It sets as a backdrop, as a support mechanism for the storytelling. And as a drummer, you have to know, if you are drumming for a storyteller, you have to know to not overshadow the storyteller, because the storyteller is the star. You are the support. And in some parts of the story, the drummer does become the star. Also in using various other types of percussion instruments as well. And the community, in most cases, will come together and they will respond. And there is a connection that is made, and the experiences are shared, and they are very binding. So experience how drumming punctuates and enhance stories. Yes, a blending of rhythm and the narratives that will, as I have said, connect generations together. The African storyteller, well, he's a living legacy, or her. The storyteller can be a man or woman, or they can be both working together. As you can see in my background, if I move my head out the way, there's also female there as well too, with the male storyteller, and there's a drummer. And of course you have your audience that are all ages. I'm moving out the way so you can see. And I do storytelling mostly towards family-oriented audiences. I do them for adults as well too, but I enjoyed the family being there, the parents, the children, the aunts and the uncles, you know. African storytelling traditions have a deep cultural and historical importance, and they serve as a foundation for how knowledge, values, and identity, and our beliefs, and our political ideas, and our social interaction come into play. It's the storytelling basically is the preservation of history of a village. Back in those days, they were known as the Jollies. We call them Jollies, or we call them griot. And I do believe griot may be a French word. Correct me if I'm wrong. There is also the sharing of knowledge through storytelling. Values are built, and it shapes identity, especially for a child that is impressionable. It lets a child knows about a child, even an adult, also know about the history of their family, of their culture. It helps them to shape the identity of who they are within them. In their minds, they can kind of like formulate a picture as to the relationship between storytelling and life itself. And there's always a message in the story, and there's always a lesson to be learned within many of these stories. Preservation of, as I said, the preservation of history and oral tradition, the ancestors, kings, major events. When we talk about the kings, we're talking about not just the male king, but female leaders as well too. The leaders of various different villages, of various different cultures and various different countries. Back in the old days, they didn't use paper. Everything was delivered word of mouth through memory, handed down from generation to generation, not just in the African culture, but also in various other cultures as well. the Irish, the Chinese, the Asian communities, the Latino communities, England, um, Czechoslovakia, very any country you name, Russia, Germany, they all have their storytellers. They all have people who preserve the history of their culture, of their politics, of their beliefs, their values, and who they are as people. And storytellers don't have a problem in sharing those stories with other cultures as well. And as I say, they're memorized and they're shared stories, and they're done with great skill. Um, the rhythm and the drum, and even poetry. I started out as a drummer, as a musician playing the trumpet, then a drummer, a poet, and eventually I started with storytelling. I kind of combine all of those things together to bring across my message through storytelling. And as I said, storytelling teaches lessons. There are moral lessons to be learned. There are also lessons to be learned as far as what not to do to shed yourself of bad habits, that are not necessary for human growth and relationship with other folks. As you can see, there's the one that talks about courage and wisdom, the young man going up against someone who appears to be more mightier than him, sort of like the David and Goliath story. Kindness and respect, as in some stories that are told about animals, such as the lion and the mouse who did the lion a favor by pulling a splinter out of his paw, and they became friends. And then Think Wisely, you have Anansi and the crow, and then patience and persistence. That's dealing with the tortoise and the hare. Of course, I do believe you are familiar with that story where the tortoise he won that race through persistence and patience, and the hare thought because he was so fast and that the turtle moved so slow that he couldn't win the race, but he was shown. Because see, there's a lesson learned within that, and that within that story itself, that the rabbit learned, where he found out that his speed was not always a good thing, that patience and persistence, play a role. Honesty, respect, and wisdom, and also there are consequences to be learned. Building cultural identity. Stories reflect the beliefs, the traditions, as I have said, values of different African communities, and not just, as I said, not just African communities, but other communities as well. Through repeated stories, people learn who they are and where they come from, and they learn about their culture and what it stands for. They teach us to connect with our ancestors. Our ancestors, we honor our ancestors through our stories. Our traditions are very important. We keep the customs going with the music, the language within our stories. We learn to respect, as I have said, and show kindness and courage. And of course, most importantly, the identity. Are you guys able to see the slides pretty good? Okay, good. Entertainment. As you know, storytelling has its entertainment side. To how did Valerie put it, when you're dealing with children, especially little children, and I've told stories to preschool kids, um, and I found that they could be a handful, and their attention span, oh my God, is off the charts. But every storytelling session that I go to, especially where there's children, no matter their age, from diaper wearing to out of control teenagers, I always bring my drums, and I bring various different types of percussion instruments. But for some odd reason, children are drawn to the drums. Before I can even start telling a story, as you had said, Valerie, they want to come up, they want to touch you. Well, they want to come up and they want to touch the drums. They're ready to, oh, we don't want no story. We want to play some music, you know. That's where children get sometimes. And you have to know how to approach them and how to deal with them. And I learned from just by doing. Nobody really taught me. I just threw myself in the mix, and I learned that way through experience. Oh, I did watch other storytellers as well too, because I don't have a degree in storytelling. I've learned from other storytellers the do's and don'ts of storytelling, and what helps and what hurts, you know. And as I said, children, they're very drawn to drums, you know. Together, we listen, we laugh, we oh, children is something else. There is that bonding element, and these drums help to create that bond between me, the storyteller, and them, because as Valerie had said in her workshop, you are the star, but at some point, the audience become a part of the star too, as well, you know, because there's that interaction where I was at a museum, the African American Museum in Philadelphia, and I was performing a historical character, Frederick Douglass, and there was two female teenagers in the audience that were having a conversation. You know what I mean? And I said, oh my God, I'm losing them. So I pulled them in. And I was like, my dear young ladies, do you wish Frederick Douglass to join your conversation as well? Tell me, what would Frederick Douglass say to you? He's trying to deliver an important speech and you're standing there and you're having a conversation among yourselves rather than pay attention to Frederick Douglass. I did that to these. I kind of felt sorry for him because he put them on the spot. And I just drew them right into the story, you know, and they were good little children for the rest of the time they were there. And they laughed about it too, you know, we all laughed, you know, because a lot of other folks in the audience, they knew what I was doing, you know, they understood. And stories are more than words, you know, stories are emotions. They are who we are. They describe our life. They describe everybody's life. They describe the wonders around us. They describe the interaction. The drum speaks and the drum sings, and the drum tells a story of rhythm that communicates. The drum communicates sadness. It communicates wealth. It communicates challenge. It communicates various things. It communicates happiness, and it also communicates warning. Now, we have two particular type of drums that I use. One is to your left, you see is the djembe drum. its origin is mainly out of Mali, West Africa. But the djembe drum can be found in anywhere around the world, from the smallest, tiniest village in Africa to the biggest, largest city in Germany or America or Russia or France. You can find that drum. And the same thing goes for the other drum to the right, which is, I don't know, maybe it's to your left, but it's to my right. And that's the kunga drum, which is based on the African tradition. This particular drum was designed and by the African who how can I say, descendants of the African slaves in Cuba, that were in Cuba. This drum too can be found throughout the world, and it's used in bands. Most people who don't know, they don't equate the kunga drum with being a part of Africa, but it is. It has its African roots. To give you an idea, I have, if you can see, I have a djembe drum here, if you can see. And I also have a kunga drum here as well, if you can see some of it. Many storytellers that I know of the modern age, they use the kunga, or they use the djembe. Some, or they use both. There is also a thing called the shekere, which is from out of Africa. This particular shekere is Morocco. And it comes in various different sizes and shapes. That's used in storytelling. Shakers are used in storytelling. This crazy looking thing here, that's used in, that's cowrie shells put together like a bell. And then there's this crazy instrument. I don't know exactly what the name is. This here is also used in storytelling as well. And then sleigh bells. I like sleigh bells. That's used in storytelling. And then there's the kabasa. Some people use them in storytelling. Clave sticks, which is mostly used in Afro-Latin communities in Cuba and Puerto Rico and the Espanol Islands. And then we have the go-go bell. It's kind of loud. I know my wife's in the next room. What is he doing in there? Shaker. Now one thing I do when I do storytelling where there's a lot of children, I have a bag of eggs, Easter eggs, and a bag of beans or either rice. And I use Scotch tape instead of glue. And it's one of my activities that I'll do with children and even adults if they're willing to participate. And I have them make their own shakers. I don't know if you can hear that. They were the Easter eggs. They come in various different colors. This is one that I bought from a store that was already put together. And I took a Coors Light can and I filled it full of rice. I have about 4 of these. A couple of them have beans in them. You can make a shaker just about out of anything almost. you know. These are the various instruments that I use in storytelling, African storytelling and African American storytelling. Um, um, the storytellers of old, they used to use drums, various different types of similar um, small percussion instruments such as this. And there's also a thing called a thumb piano. I don't have one of those with me to show you. Um, so, um, as I mentioned, central to the conga drum is central to Afro-Cuban music, as well as storytelling and rhythms, and is also central to dancing as well. Um, and the djembe drum is like a fire. It's a fire drum. It has that fire spirit, you know. And let me see. Okay. Now, as far as playing the drum, I want to give you a little, see, like storytelling can become very technical too. I know that. Drumming can be technical too, but I try not to make it too technical. Um, there are there are two approaches to playing the drum. The approach to the conga drum is different than the approach to the djembe drum. Um, with the djembe, drum, basically, well, let me start with the conga drum. The conga drum has a heel toe motion with your left hand, or if you're right handed, it'd be your right hand. And you would do like a heel toe motion and making a sound on the drum with your left hand or either your right hand, and the other hand would just be just a straight on tapping, rapping the drum as you see here in these pictures. But with the djembe drum, it's more of a African approach. There's no heel toe motion. You just go in and you just start slapping the drum, you know. And there's two major tones to the drum. In the first picture you'll see is the bass tone. You use the palm of your hand. The second tone is the open tone, and you use from this point here to that point, to the tip of your fingers. And the slap tone, you use the same part of your hand, but only you would do a little twist to it. To give you an example, you probably won't be able to see me do it, but to give you an example what it sounds like, the bass tone is here. The open tone and the slap tone. Now, there is written music for congas and djembes. Some folks don't know that. And they can be written in quarter notes, 16th notes, eighth notes. Here, there's a gentleman by the name of Olatunji, Babatunde Olatunji, who has an approach to playing the drum, and it's the Gundun Godo Pata. They say if you can sing the rhythm, you can play the rhythm. Gundun Godo Pata. Give you an example, I'll play it, you can probably hear it. The Gundun is the bass. Gundun. Gundun. And the Godo is the open tone. Godo. Godo. And the slap tone, the pata is the slap tone. Pata. So it's boom, boom, godo, ta. Olatunji, he's no longer with us. He's in drumming in heaven. Him along with a gentleman by the name of there's another Olatunji Babatunde is from West Africa. There's various other drummers from out of Cuba. One by the name of Mongo Santa Maria, who's famous for a particular, I can't think of this. If you ever saw the movie Watermelon Man, he plays the rhythms to that in that song. And as I said, this is another form of notation for drumming. It's called a box notation. Right, left, open, right. The B stands for open. Right, left, open, right. That will tell you where to strike the drum. It would be a lot easier if I could.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think I just adjusted the settings for music performance because we could not hear the drum. So when you speak and then you want to play the music or play the instrument, you have to stop talking for about a second. So pause and then play the music and realize that the first half second, we might not hear the music. It's kind of weird how it does that. But you have to have pauses between conversation and music performance. I think it's set. Maybe you could try your drum real quick.
Let me try that real quick. As I said, the goon doom. Goon doom. That's the bass. How's that? Can you hear it?
No, we're not picking up the drums. Nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
Maybe hold the drum closer to the microphone.
Well, I think it's noise cancellation. I turned it off. I have original sound for musician. I think it should be. Go do it now.
Nothing.
Yeah. I hate that. Now,
no problem.
I think I'm a co-host.
But you can hear me though.
Says original sound for musicians on my screen.
Yeah, I have that on my screen. I have that on too.
But did we change it during the meeting? Do you have, will the settings wait for the program to close and reopen to reset?
I mean, it's been on that way since I started the meeting. It's always said for musicians, but
yeah. Well, that's something I'm gonna have to work on.
Well, we can hear you, and it is fabulous listening.
Okay.
Yeah, you just imitate the sound with your mouth, I guess.
Yeah, goon doom, goldo, pot ta. Bass, open, slap. Goon doom, goldo, pot ta. Goon doom, goldo, pot ta. Goon doom, goldo, pot ta. Can y'all say that with me? Goon doom, goldo,
pot ta.
1, 2, 3, 4. Goon doom.
Goon doom.
Goldo.
Goldo.
Pata.
Pata.
Yeah, that's the bass, open, slap. As I had mentioned, there is written music. Written notation for drums. That's how I learn a lot of rhythms because I have a couple books, instructional books, and also instructional CDs and video tapes where I try to learn new rhythms. I even go online sometime, and this here is a more traditional visual explanation of written notation for drumming, and not just for congas or djembes, but trap drums, regular drums. As you know, they use notation as well too. And a lot of the music is in rhythms, and music is in 4/4 time, and also 6/8 time. There's a 6/8 rhythm is do 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 do. That's a 6/8 rhythm. I don't know. Can you hear this here? Can you hear that either?
No.
Maybe I may have inadvertently turned off my sound for musician. I don't know. And there's what they call paradiddles, triplets, double paradiddles, diddles. Let's get away from the technical stuff. I know you folks are familiar with this person here. This is Charlotte Blake Austin. I use myself as an example with drumming and storytelling. And not just, she's not the only one that's in this video. Oba King, I do believe are y'all familiar with him? Yeah, because I think he's a member of Tejas as well. I think he's living here in Texas now. I think he's from Chicago. I never got to meet him in person, but I know Charlotte. Charlotte is a founding member of Keepers of the Culture, in which I am a lifetime member of, back in Philadelphia. And Charlotte is a very highly respected storyteller, not just on the national stage, but I do believe across the waters as well too. And she's one of the folks who I looked up to. And I've learned a lot from just sitting back watching her perform. And I've sat back and I've watched a lot of you guys perform as well too at Tejas. And I've taken a lot of that and applied it. You know, if you look at a person who tells stories, you can just about say, wait a minute, he's telling African stories, but I sense a twinge of European elements within the story as well. Hey, what can I say? You know what I mean? But before I put Charlotte and Oba on display, do you have any questions for me?
Ron, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
You know, in Oklahoma, we have the various native tribes, and they have what they call the drum, and the people sitting around it and singing. Do you see any connection at all? Or, I mean, culturally, I guess there's a similarity, but do you see any connection at all?
I see connection, especially from a nature perspective and a spiritual perspective. I see a connection because a lot of some of the native storytelling and in this culture there's a lot of spiritual elements involved. And there's also that relationship with man, with humanity and nature. And it's the same with African culture as well too, and not just African culture, but African American culture as well. Because I do a lot of African American storytelling as well too, and I do some of it through my reenactments. For example, doing Louis Armstrong. Sometimes I'll get up on the stage and I'll bring this into play. I don't play like I used to when I was a kid in high school. When I played the school orchestra, school band. I'm trying to redevelop my lip. But you know what about the Native American is I like that flute. That flute they use. Man, that flute is awesome. I even like the European and the American version of a flute too. It's just something about it that draws me the same way the drum does. Anybody else have any questions?
I was going to say, I had a similar thought to Chester's to ask about the drumming of the Native Americans, and you answered that. Also wanted to say I love your graphic pictures. They show so much. Is that part of the handout package I didn't get to?
No, that's not in the handout package. Most of what's in the handout package is it talks about the history of the drum, of both drums, the culture. It talks about the history and the culture of storytelling. There are even some lessons, instructions on how to approach the drum as far as striking the drum and getting the different sounds out of the drum.
Hey, Ron, is that something that we could add to that folder?
It's something that we could add to that folder.
But they can get it afterwards?
I will, what I would do is I would have to gather them up and send them to...
Send it to me or Carol and we can upload it for you.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm going to tell you the truth. These all of those images are AI generated. I asked AI, hey, look, and I even asked Dean too. I said, are these original photos, man? Can I use these photos anywhere else without getting in trouble? You know what I mean? And AI told me, yeah. AI said that based on what's been fed to AI itself, their AI's base system, database system, it draws off of various different scenarios and programs and stuff that's been fed to AI and also based on what I ask AI what I want, because I asked AI for this, 2 storytellers under the Balboa tree with a drummer and 2 storytellers in the audience, out in the wilderness somewhere. And this is what AI came up with, and even with the other ones too,
So you can share it. It's like a PDF file or a JPEG, but either way, you can share the file with us, and then we can put it up in the folder, and folks will have access to it afterwards.
Yeah. As soon as when I get off, I will.
And that'll work because the photos are going to stay. The photos aren't going anywhere; they'll be there.
Right, and I do know that we will be critiquing the various different workshops, right? Giving our opinions and stuff on them.
Yeah. We got evaluation for you.
So I invite every single one of you to be honest in your evaluation of me. You know what I mean? To show me my weak points and my strengths, and what can help me to make a better presentation. Because I am learning. You know what I mean? My head is not that big. I mean, I got a big head, but my head ain't that big, that I can't take, constructive criticism, you know what I mean, from folks. because I'm learning. You know what I mean? I've always been a drummer and a poet, and I try to be a singer sometime. I don't know what I'll be doing there, but you know, like my boy Louis, what good is sitting alone in the room? Come hear the music play. Okay, y'all, enough from me. Here you go. And I guess I'll play some of this here so you can get an idea of what's going down.
Welcome to the Millennium Stage. Tonight's performance is in collaboration with the National Association of Black Storytellers. The artists will be selling merchandise following the performance. Now, Charlotte Blake Alston and Oba William King present Family Night, storytelling.
If you notice, there's an instrument she's using called the kora. That's another instrument that's used in storytelling.
Are you okay? Did I miss something?
Allows our lungs to draw in the sacred breath of life. Allows us to see, to hear, to think, to feel, to speak, so that we might share in the telling of stories. Praise to all of those whose stories have been lost, not listened to, changed, and used as weapons. Praise to all of those whose stories were left in the hulls of slave ships, to all of those whose stories lie at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Praise to all of those whose stories were left in cattle cars and ovens in Eastern Europe, on the killing fields of Cambodia and the trail of tears on American soil. Praise to all of those who in this moment as we sit are suffering somewhere in the world, because they have spoken stories of peace, freedom, and humanity. Praise to all of those who in this moment as we sit are forming in their minds the words, the actions that will bring peace in areas where there is war and where there is hatred. Praise to all of those ancestors whose collective toil, tears, pain, struggles, hopes, dreams, and prayers beckoned us into existence so that we might speak their stories and our own.
Aquaba, welcome everyone. Storytelling, as we give praise to the ancestors as part of the tradition of the work we do as storytellers. You want to give praise and thank you to Charlotte Blake Alston by putting your hands together such as that. Aha! And storytelling allows us to have the call and response where you can raise your voice up high, where you can make the sound with the clapping of your hands. You can snap your fingers or move your body all around. I am Obed William King, the poetic storyteller, and I bring you good news from the ancestors. The ancestors said to play my drum, play for you this African sound. Find the rhythm, you clap your hands. I'm gonna wait for you. There it is, there it is, there it is. We're connected to the elements. Yeah. The ancestors say that I should try to get you to raise your voice up high. Find the message in this song. Everybody, let me tell you that this is how we'll get along. Connected like leaves to the trees. Connected like sand to the beach. Connected like stars to the sky. Yes, you and I. Connected like heat from the sun. Connected, a hand on a drum. Connected, all birds with wings. Connected, yes, everything. Connected. The ancestors say, the ancestors say. The ancestors say. The ancestors say, the ancestors say. The ancestors say, the ancestors say. Once on a time, there was a boy who lived in a village. That boy grew. And as he grew, he came upon the age of reckoning. The age where you should determine what you will do with your life. What path will you be on? The boy left the village, walking. He walked for a day, a week, a month, a year and a day. He came to a place of tall trees where he decided to rest his body. He saw there was a huge black walnut tree. He set his bottom on the root, his back against the trunk, and he leaned his head. The boy heard a sound. Son. Looking around because he saw no people, when he sat down, again he heard, Son, it is I who speaks to you. The tree is talking. He continued to sit, but he listened closely. I am old, ancient as it were. I have lived my life, but you have come to bring me new life. You can allow me to live again. Would you take the wood of my trunk, cut down my trunk, and hollow out the bottom? Shape the lower part into that of a tail. The upper part will you shape into that of a bowl. Find for me the skin of the elephant's ear. Stretch it tight and tune it high. Place your hand in the middle of that which you will call drum. Allow me to live again. Allow me to live again. The boy did as he was told, cut down the tree, hollowed out the trunk. He shaped the bottom into that of a bell and the top into that of a bowl, and he found the ear, the skin of the elephant's ear, stretched it across the top, stretched it tight, tuned it high. He placed his hand in the center of that drum. The rhythm became his heartbeat. His words were that of the ancestor's voice. The ancestor said to play my drum. The ancestor said, the ancestor said, play for you this African sound. The ancestor said, the ancestor said, find the rhythm so you can dance. We're connected to the elements, connected like hand on a drum, connected like heat from the sun, connected all fish in the sea, connected, yes, you and me, connected like ice in a glass.
Connected,
Like now to our past.
connected,
Like grass in the ground. Black, white, and brown. Connect. The ancestors say, the ancestors say. The ancestors say, the ancestors say.
So, my dear people, that is the drum and African storytelling. I hope I did at least a halfway decent job with this workshop. And as I said, let me know how I can improve. Many of you know my email. You can also send me an email as well, too. I welcome them as well. Are there any more questions? I think we're about 6 minutes left. Anybody have any questions?
Ron, I have to say I really, really enjoyed the video. And what was so compelling was the way they played together in sync. Was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. As a musician, that spoke to me immediately, the in syncness and the beauty and the call and response. I love that. So it was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We got to hear the drums.
Yeah, I do believe some of you may be familiar with Ella Jenkins. Who fed the chickens? I did. Who fed the cows? I did. Who stacked the hay? Excuse me, I did. Excuse me, Jesus. And they're recording this too. I like her call and response. She's no longer with us. She's, as you know, she's in Storytelling Heaven. And that's one of the many things I do with, I do some of her songs. I enjoy doing, especially with children and elderly. I do believe I participated in Tejas' Fringe Festival, and I did a call and response. And it went something like, I said, oh yeah, eh, and then the audience said, oh yeah, eh. And then I said, La Rumba, oh yeah, eh. And then the audience came in behind me, oh yeah, eh, La Rumba, oh yeah, eh. That's another call and response I like to do too when I'm drumming. It's a rumba rhythm, rhythm called Wan Wan Ko, which is an Afro-Cuban rhythm. So I do believe we're down to the wire. Am I right, John, Emily? So I hope you folks
I'm just going to
enjoy.
say, Ron, I remember when I was a kid, Desi Arnaz, and he'd I think it's Babalu or whatever it was, and he'd have the Afro-Cuban kind of style of the music and the congos going on. And then I actually moved to Miami when I was like 19, 20, and people would sit on their porch in Miami, and sometimes they'd be playing the drum and doing some of these things you're talking about, songs and songs, and it was wonderful. And here I was with the church as a missionary, but it made it so easy for me just to walk up to their patio and say, hey, how you doing? Hey, we want to invite you out to our church, because it was such a social people.
Right.
It's so hot. A lot of people didn't have air conditioning. They'd sit out on the porch and play bongos. They'd sing and they'd have conversation. So that's what I think of when I think of the bongos and things like that. So I enjoyed hearing the story. I have one recommendation. If you could start off, and I know we didn't have the technology right, but if you could have started out with a song, a story drumming right off the bat. So for the first 2 minutes, I don't even know, but it didn't quite work because the music wasn't working. But I did like the way you imitated the drum sound. That was awesome. Can we hear that again real quick? The rum and patat.
Goon doom godo pata. Goon doom godo pata. Do 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 do.
Yep. I brought my little drum.
Okay. So in Philly, there are drum circles throughout this. You can find drum circles throughout the city. There's a big, what they call a Doomday Festival that's going to take place in June or July in Philadelphia. And I'm just starting to find some drum circles here in Texas. I found one in Dallas when I was at a book fair. And also I ran into a drummer here in Killeen where I was at a festival as well. And then there's going to be a Juneteenth festival here as well too. And I think Galveston is the main place for the Juneteenth festival because that's where it all originated. So thank you. That's 1 minute left. Anybody else?
Ron, a quick question for someone who did not grow up with as much musical talent. When it comes to learning the djembe, would you just play and watch videos to get better at it, or are there any resources that you suggest as well?
Well, I was introduced to music at a very early age in church. I actually get them from the church. Me and my brother used to sing little spiritual songs during the children's program. Then I decided to learn how to play the trumpet, and I studied trumpet music and theory throughout my time in school from second grade all the way up to high school. I was in school band, school orchestra, playing the trumpet. And during the time that I think I was in junior high school is when I was introduced to the conga. I was out at a place called Belmont Plateau, where I saw a group of drummers for the first time. And I fell in love with the sound of the drum. And there was a gentleman in our house of worship who played a conga, and he helped me learn a few things. And then I developed things on my own. And I developed myself, self-taught myself more in playing the drum, because I ended up buying a couple of them. And I played the rhythms, I played what I felt. At age 40 is when I began to take traditional lessons, drum lessons from actual drum masters, conga and conga drum. And then later on, what I learned on the conga, I applied it to the djembe drum. And I bought videotapes of a gentleman by the name of Babatunde Olatunji, who I mentioned. He has an instructional video. And there are various other people throughout the drumming diaspora who have videos out there, especially online. And I've studied those too. And I have a couple of books and I have some audio tapes, to help myself to become more fluent in drumming. You're welcome. Again, thank you all. I do believe that's it. Take care.